Hey guys, it's Trish with Upcycled Stuff. Today I'm going to take a pretty common thrift store item, this here fishbowl flower vase, and give it a little update. These are pretty common in thrift stores along with other types of vases, those cheap throwaway type vases that florists use when they're sending flowers out. And so the thrift stores are totally overwhelmed by them. So I'm going to show you how to give it a quick update so that it matches your decor and has a unique look to fit into your home. So in addition to having it some kind of a vase, you're going to need some twine. Now I got lucky, my parents actually own a little pet store and they make their own cat trees that are covered with this stuff, and they got some parts that didn't quite fit, so they had all these poles with twine that they were going to throw away, but I didn't let them. I rescued the twine. So if you don't have access to a pet store, just take a look in your junk drawer. There's always twine or something laying around. So you'll need twine, a hot glue gun, a button, scissors, and then this is just some paint that I mixed up from some paints that I found from the Oopsie Daisy table at the hardware store, and just a sponge brush. So just to get things started for our little embellishment that we're going to do on top of our twine wrapped vase, we're going to take some of this twine, if I can find the end of it. There it is. And we're going to put some paint on it, and this is going to be for our flower embellishment. I'm probably taking about 1.5 feet. It really depends on how big you want to make your flower, so just kind of play it by ear. I'm going to take some of my paint here, and I'm just going to brush it on top of my twine. I'm not going to worry too much about full coverage because most of the decor where this is going is a little bit more rustic, and it's not really, it's pretty aged, you know. I've roughed things up with sandpaper and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to give this a quick coat. And then once you have it covered to your liking, to your taste, I am wearing gloves because I'm not, I don't want to make a mess of myself, which I'll probably do anyway, just not on my hands. So you're going to set this aside to dry, and while that's drying, we can start gluing our vase pieces together. Okay, so while your twine is drying for your embellishment, we're just going to take some glue and put it along the very bottom of your vase. I'm using a low temp glue because it's glass, and I'm not sure, I don't do a lot of hot gluing on glass. I'm not sure if the really high temp melt glue will you know, cause the glass to break. And I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in those little seams between the braids there to keep them together, keep them from fraying. Okay. Now, I'm just going to continue gluing. I'm going to make sure that I have a nice solid line of glue all the way around the bottom of this vase, just so it doesn't fall off. And then I won't worry too much about, you know, gluing all the way around underneath every place where the twine touches the glass, because if you keep it tight enough, it should stay in place with just spots of glue. Okay. And so now I'm just going to keep layering. Get this baby moving. Just to make sure it stays in place really well, and I think I'm there. Alright, so I'm going to give this a little snip. A little extra glue on the end and in there where it could fray. Okay, now I'm using my fingers to push this all in there, and it's going to look pretty messy, but if you know, the little trick with hot glue is if you take your hair dryer and just heat it up, it'll melt a little bit more, but at least it'll still be inside those areas where it could fray. But it won't look so messy. Okay? So let's move on to the embellishment. Okay, so I have my painted twine here, and I'm going to start cutting little loops. Probably about, if I cut a 2-inch length, I think this is going to be the petal of a flower. So I think that that's about the right size by the time yeah, I think that'll work. So I'm going to go ahead and cut up maybe 6 of these, 5 or 6 of these, in the same lengths. Okay, now that I have my pieces cut, I'm going to take and make little loops out of them and just hot glue them into place. But because I don't want my center to be too thick and bulky, I'm going to offset my edges of my twine. So instead of having this, where they will then all come together, I'm going to do this just a little bit. Okay, so that just this part meets in the center on all the petals. And it'll make sense. If it doesn't make sense yet, it'll make sense once I do it. So I'm going to just flip this over and put a blob of glue on what I'm calling the back side. And then I'm going to set mine just so that it's at the top of my twine. You can put it anywhere you want it. This is just personal preference. And just hold it there for a second till that glue gives a quick dry. Now I'm working outside and it's kind of cold today, so my glue is probably going to dry pretty quick here. Alright, and then we'll do the next one. Okay, big blob of glue. Don't worry too much if the glue shows through the top because we're going to cover it up with a button. Okay? So I did that backwards, but that's alright. So I'm just setting it so that it all comes together in one place to make the center of the flower where the button will cover it up, hopefully. My button's kind of small. I might have to go get a bigger one. Okay. And then just keep doing that until you have your flower shape, all your petals in the flower shape. Okay, there's all my petals glued down. And you can kind of see how there's some of these little shorter pieces of twine. It just helps to keep everything from getting bulky so I can get my petals closer together. Now if you wanted to make them all come together at the same place in the center, you could do that. You just have fewer petals. So that's just a personal preference again. Now the other thing is your button has to be big enough to reach out here, and mine's actually just a little bit short, but I think it's okay. I can live with it. It's just that one piece that shows. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and glue my button down. The other thing you could do too is I was thinking as I just was thinking my button was too small, is take another piece of your twine and just coil it as a center for your flower. But I'm pretty happy with that right there. And this button was actually one of those extra buttons that comes, sewn into the jacket lining or the pants, that you buy when you buy them new. So everything here was either thrifted or something that was headed to the trash or just extra stuff that came with things that were purchased. So it's a pretty cheap craft, and it's cute. It'll match my bathroom really nicely. And there she is, the finished product, bringing a little life into my bathroom.